back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaelyn. I am a second-year PhD student in History and African American Studies. Today, I'm getting the day off started with a cup of coffee in a to-go cup. Why, you might ask, is because I'm going to pack up my bag and go to campus because, as you saw from the opening clips of this vlog, it snowed last night and it is beautiful, and I thought it would be fun to go onto campus today in order to get some pretty footage of campus, but also just because I have been kind of stuck in my apartment, in which case I love being in my apartment and I have everything I could ever need here, but I can tell that I'm starting to get back in that kind of COVID mindset of being kind of hunkered down and not feeling as creative and inspired. So I'm gonna go to campus today in order to hopefully instigate a little bit of energy into my day. It is the last time I have classes on campus for my coursework portion of my PhD. I got a couple questions on my Instagram post yesterday when I was talking about having finished my coursework stage or nearing the end of my coursework stage. So because I have my master's, I'm technically able to transfer some of those credits and then not have to take a spring semester of my second year. And although I will be taking a language course as well as maybe auditing a course at the law school, I technically do not have any course credits that I will have to complete in the spring, which means that I can prepare for comprehensive exams. So comprehensive exams are basically read a set of books. So I have 3 reading lists that I'm currently working on compiling at the moment. It's going to include a list on early modern Britain and the English colonies, as well as a list on comparative Atlantic world slavery, and then a list on Black women's history in the US. So gonna be busy reading books next semester. Very excited for that, honestly. I am ready for the next stage of this PhD. I'm kind of ready to just dive into my research. I really haven't had the time or the resources to be able to kind of go into the archives, and I'd like to do a little bit of travel next semester in order to go see some documents. That's my update for the morning. I'm gonna go ahead and make up my cup of coffee, put on a coat, pack up my bag, and head out the door. Humanities building where they have graduate student study spaces, and it's pretty empty. There's nobody in here right now, which is excellent because I have quite a bit to get done, and then I'm going to log in to my class, which is on Zoom, and I have headphones, but it's just nice that there's nobody in here, and it has such a pretty view outside of cross campus, and I'm going to go ahead and start getting some work done. Logged into the accountability workshop, which is being run by Yale, and currently I'm reading Claudia Rankin's Citizen, and she writes specifically about the idea of like private witness in relation to like police brutality and acts of brutality that were often kind of shielded, but because of the kind of media age and access to cell phones, that those private or like kind of private moments of violence are now being made public. And what I find really interesting about this piece in particular is the idea that there is a public and a private sphere, and whether or not we still believe that to be true. And so anyway, I'm just currently working on that reading and I'm preparing for class, which will start in about 15 minutes. And I'm currently alone on this floor, and I definitely wish I had come and explored the humanities building sooner, because this is a really nice space to get some work done. And also these chairs are like actually comfortable, which sounds ridiculous, but one of the reasons I don't come to campus is because I have a really bad back, and having proper seating and all of those things is something that's important for long study sessions. So anyway, I'm just ranting, and it feels so nice to be on campus. I had this one idea, kind of takes us off the topic that Juma brought us to, so perhaps we can kind of move back in responses, but this piece made me think a lot about the kind of dichotomy of routine, public, and private, and the claim of like bearing witness thinking of those moments of surveillance. And got myself some lunch. I got a hot cocoa and one of their meatball like marinara bowls, and they provide it with bread, and I just love Atticus's bread. So I had a really good class. We have presentations next Friday, which I thought I wasn't gonna be able to attend because I'm flying back to California, but it turns out that they're having the presentations later in the afternoon, so I might actually be able to attend, and so I might just call in. But now I'm just gonna take a minute to decompress. I'm gonna just watch One Tree Hill and then maybe take a nap, and then I'm gonna start studying for the evening. I'm going to be working on my papers tonight and just focusing on that. That is my one and only goal for the evening. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of relax for a minute and then get back to work. It was so nice being out on campus. It was so beautiful. I'm really glad that I made myself go, and also those graduate student study spaces are so much nicer than I thought they were gonna be, and so I am definitely gonna take advantage of that more often, especially this coming week, because majority of my time is just for writing papers and not focusing on stuff for YouTube or Accepted, even though I also have to upload YouTube videos and edit client documents, but that is the way of it. And I'm gonna go ahead and relax for a little while, and I'll check in with you all in a couple of hours.
You're carrying it around, and you're wrong to feel it. Whom you love most in all the world.
All right, well, now that I am done with my nap and the sun has set, it is time for a YouTube live, but beforehand I decided to jump on Instagram live. So say hello to everybody on Instagram. It is about time for me to go live on YouTube. I'm gonna do another study with me evening. So during these study with me's, I basically just set up a camera and do as much work as I can for the night. I pretty much just work straight through. I will take breaks occasionally to eat or to grab another cup of coffee or to take a stretch, but I pretty much just try to work through on these study with me's. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. It's gonna be a long one, I don't know how long, and we'll just see how we do. So I've been working for about 2 hours now. I'm currently working on an article that is for a talk I am going to tomorrow, and the author is waiting to get this published. It's part of a larger manuscript on sovereignty and the law of slavery in the British Atlantic world, and specifically in early modern British Parliament and the Star Council. And as I'm reading through this, I, one, am finding such incredible citations. Like, the footnotes are super rich, and I'm simultaneously reading the article while also pulling from the footnotes and then adding them into my comprehensive exam lists. And it is a lot to process. But one thing I wanted to chat about is that as I'm reading through this, and as I went to the conference a couple weeks ago, I'm beginning to realize how somewhat insufficient my undergraduate training was. As a transfer student, you just don't have very much time to familiarize yourself with a variety of literature. And so, for example, there's a lot of literature on early modern and medieval Britain or England that I just wish I had had more training in on a survey level. For example, there's all this discussion about Henry Bracton in the 13th century and how he was influenced by Roman law. And first of all, the first time that I'd ever actually heard the name Bracton was at a conference in my second year as a PhD student. And I just feel like there's a literature and there's a lingo that if you don't have the initial training, you are essentially left out of the conversation, or you just feel left out of the conversation. I think most of this is obviously kind of internalized feelings of doubt and self-consciousness, but I also think that there is some kind of merit to it because I'm reading through this and these are conversations that I have never been able to engage in. And while I know the history of early America quite well, because that's the literature that I spent most of my time essentially immersed in, I feel like my training is somewhat insufficient because there's so much about Spanish legal systems and the English common law system that I just have never really been able to take classes in. I just feel a little overwhelmed in terms of imposter syndrome to a certain end, because I look around at my colleagues and they can talk about repugnancy laws and they can talk about Bracton and they know about the kind of feudal systems that were in place in the medieval period. And they've just taken classes on, for example, constitutionalism in ways that I've just never been able to. And so I'm just reading through these articles, and while most of it makes sense to me, there are just parts of it that I'm looking at it and realizing that I just really wish I had this early modern English history training and that there had been classes on British history, because it plays such a significant role in my research and I just feel like it's a massive gap in my knowledge. And luckily I'm heading into the comprehensive exam stage, which means that I can actually add these books onto my list and begin diving in. However, the one thing that's just challenging is that I just feel very behind in this way, and I just feel like I'm basically diving straight into the thick of it with this literature, and I just feel like I'm not fully equipped with the kind of survey knowledge to read it super effectively. And so that's just my woe is me kind of rant. But I think it's important to say, because like as a first generation graduate student and as a transfer student in particular that came from a community college, I just feel like I never really had the time to have the breadth of knowledge that I wanted. And I feel like all of my classes had to be really focused in order for me to get to here, because a lot of my classes ended up being on African American history, on early America, and on slavery. And while I feel very well versed in that literature, anything else is essentially out of my wheelhouse. And so it just sometimes makes me feel a little insecure about being here and doing this work if I don't have that kind of foundational knowledge, if that makes sense. This was just something that was on my mind, so I figured I'd chat with you guys about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep digging into this literature. I just have some lo-fi tunes on in the background. I have a pretty hefty to-do list to get through tonight, so I'm just gonna keep on reading. Just finished an 8.5 hour long study with me live session. It was a bit of a disaster because there was a bot swarm with leaving very awful comments, and that part wasn't fun, but it went very well. I got a lot of work done, which is the best part about it. And I got through my client documents, I made some progress on my final papers, read through that article, looked at some sources, made some progress on my comprehensive exam lists. So it was a very productive session. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this vlog for today. I hope you enjoyed this snowy day in my life at Yale. Stick around for more academic lifestyle content. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.